Next petition, PE1593 by Paul Quigley on behalf of Fans Against Criminalisation on a full review of the Offensive Behaviour at Football and Threatening Communications Scotland Act. We received responses back from those we contacted, and we've also had a submission from Fans Against Criminalisation on whose behalf Paul Quigley brought the petition. I think there's still a lot of work to be done in relation to looking into this, even as late as this morning. There's been some information supplied in a national newspaper, and it includes a letter signed by a host of organisations that continue to have concerns over this, individuals and organisations across a whole swathe of Scottish society. So I think it would be remiss of us to say that there isn't some work still to be done in respect to this. And on a personal level, I was very disappointed with the response that was received from the Minister in respect of one particular issue. As sort of personal to me, and I have to raise it because it does reflect on something that he maintains in his letter. When he made a statement to the Parliament about the review, he made a claim that one aspect of it in terms of rehabilitation of offenders, which he claimed in his statement had the support of the fans groups who were opposed to the legislation. His wording was very careful, but he continues, when asked about this claim and this connection that he makes between what he was putting forward and his claim that Fans Against Criminalisation endorsed that proposal. His wording is very, I'm not saying misleading, but it's carefully chosen in order to allow him to make that claim. But in the debate that followed the statement, I asked a very specific question in relation to that, and in response to my question, the Minister went away from his carefully crafted words and made a very clear statement that Fans Against Criminalisation fully endorsed his position. When people challenge that assertion, he refers to the comments he made in his statement, but he ignores the comments that he made to me. And I just find that unacceptable. The people are challenging him on the basis of what he said in the chamber, and he continues to maintain that he didn't say something that he said, and I just find that totally unacceptable on a personal level. I just want to make that absolutely clear. But based on all of the information we've had, further information submitted this morning, the views of, as I said, a whole host of people in wider society, we have to pass this on to the next Petitions Committee to ask them to continue to look at it, in my view. Jackson?
I'm just going to posit a contrary view, just for discussion's sake. I'm opposed to this Act. My party is committed to its abolition. But the petition asks us to urge the Scottish Government to hold a full and comprehensive review. And we have a letter from the Minister which says that the Scottish Government will not be undertaking a review. And I'm not actually sure on that basis, given such a definitive response from the Government, whether this rests still with us as a Petitions Committee or whether it enters into the wider political domain of debate. And that's where I'm slightly unsure as to whether maintaining the petition is the correct thing to do in those circumstances, Convener. But I'm open to persuasion.
On at least
or to other colleagues' views.
And at least one of the issues that the Minister responded, I would like to get clarification. But the submission from Fans Against Criminalisation challenges a lot of what has been said by Police Scotland and the Minister, and I think we would be entitled to go back and ask them for clarification on those points. And then, that's how this committee would look at an issue if new issues are raised, or if points made by those who we contact in their responses in that correspondence raise other questions. And I think the committee has gone back and asked for clarification around those points. So if you take all of the items that Fans Against Criminalisation highlighted in respect of filming of fans, the treatment of fans, various other aspects of the issue, more points have been raised, and it would be normal practice for us to continue a petition in order to pursue those questions. I think it's always worth, and it may be unfair to single out one individual, I won't name the individual, but one of the people who signed the letter asking for a review in the newspaper this morning is one of the academics who took part in the study, which has now been claimed to be the review in which the issue has been upheld. So if even people who participated in looking at the issue think that there has to be a review, I think it would be remiss of us not to continue to ask that question. Hanzala, then John.
Chair, I think that it's not unreasonable for the petition to ask for the review that they have, because there has been a lot of misunderstanding of the whole bill. There's been a lot of I have met a lot of constituents who have said to me that the bill is not designed to have the fact that it's supposed to have designed for. And there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of hardship being suffered by people. And I think that on the basis of the fact that people are suffering hardship, that in itself says to me that we really need to have a look at this again. And to be really frank, Convener, I don't want to go into the nitty-gritty of who said what to whom. I think what's more important for my constituents is, are they going to be treated fairly or not? And the perception there is that they're not. And that needs to be addressed. And I think it's absolutely essential that we carry this forward in a legacy so that we continue to pursue this issue. If any citizens of Scotland feels that they are being treated unfairly, we need to address that. That's the bottom line.
I would just put it to, Kenny, I'll come to you in a second. I would just put it to the committee that we've debated a number of petitions this morning where there are still outstanding questions, and we've had clear answers from government bodies, the government ministers themselves who have said no to a particular request, but we've continued to take an interest in it because questions have continued to arise. And I would suggest, without prejudging what the next committee would do, that we should at least ensure that they have a chance to look at this, and that the responses to the questions that have been raised in the submissions be allowed to come back to the committee before they decide to either pass it on to someone else or close the petition. John? Oh, sorry, Kenny first.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I mean, I think there's a lot of logic in what Jackson says. Equally, I'm relaxed. It does, though, seem to me that we've come to the end of the road to some extent in what we can do. The Minister is quite clear. There is no going to be any review by the government. Equally, notwithstanding what you've said, Convener, the Minister denies that, and without going back and forward, as others have said, who said what. Equally, it does clearly still is an issue that's running. It's going to be something that people have chosen to make an election issue, and we will see what the outcome is come May. And it might then be that the committee will seek to raise it, or it might be that it will not. So I would be relaxed about it being in the legacy paper, but I would be very reluctant to see what any further inquiries work that we can take, because I don't think there's anyone that we can go to that's not going to say, I told you before, we're not reviewing it again, and equally I stand by what I said in Parliament or whatever. But continuing in the legacy paper is perfectly acceptable to me.
Okay. Sure.
Thank you. Can I say that I'm opposed to this legislation and the way the legislation has been carried out, and I know Mr McCaskill may have other views on this, but the reality for me is I think it should be in the legacy paper, but Convener, I would go slightly further than saying it just should be in the legacy paper, because clearly, as you've indicated from the responses we've received this morning, but also from the petitioner's submission, where he actually cites one of the authors of the review document, it's quite clear that the clearly issues still arising about the way this review has been used by the government. And while the government says that they're not prepared to carry out any further work on it, the committees of this Parliament have a duty and a responsibility and a right to actually carry their own scrutiny of legislation and how legislation has been carried out. If Jackson Carlo would let me finish, this committee previously undertook an inquiry into child sexual exploitation, an issue which could have been passed on to another committee of this Parliament, but the Public Petitions Committee, under the convenership of David Stewart, decided to take forward its own inquiry and make recommendations to the Scottish Government. And I would say that this issue may actually be an issue that if we include it in the legacy paper to the next committee, suggest to them that if no other committee or the government are not prepared to carry out a review, then this committee should be advised or recommended that they may want to carry out a review of this legislation as a committee and basically do the same as what they did with Petition 1593 and carry out and bring in the witnesses and others to form a basis of recommendations to the Scottish Government, because as has been said, it's not up to the government, it's up to this Parliament has got to reinstitute the right to make the government accountable for the legislation that it puts through and how that legislation is actually being delivered and how it's seen to be delivered in society. So I think there is something stronger that we can actually say, and that would be to make the recommendation that forms part of our legacy paper, but also with the view that we could potentially carry out, the committee carry out its own inquiry into this issue, so we can once and for all get some resolution to the issues that have been raised and a proper scrutiny of legislation that seemed to be detrimental to a number of people in society.
The members happy that we at least leave it in the legacy paper and let the next committee have a look at it? I think we've got an agreement, even if it's not entirely enthusiastic. We'll put it into the legacy paper. Okay, thanks.